A man known to locals as Compassion Guy has been killed in a senseless attack in a California park, bringing an unfortunate end to the joy that he brought his community. It's always sad when things like this happen. People out there trying to make the world a little bit a better place, one person at a time, one place at a time. And this man is attacked, taking joy away from his community. That is truly depressing. Let's learn a little bit more about Compassion Guy. A well-known fixture in the California community known to locals as Compassion Guy was stabbed to death in the park in what police say was a violent and senseless attack. This guy just trying to live his life, trying to be a source of joy, trying to bring joy to people as they go about in the park, and someone just stabbed him for no apparent reason. Just to be cruel, I guess. Take away a bit of joy from the world or something, I don't know. The incident apparently happened Thursday at about 11:20 a.m. at the Central Park in downtown Davis, 15 miles west of Sacramento. A passerby found him. Police were notified. He'd been found dead on a bench near a playground. Police described the attack as violent, saying the victim suffered multiple stab wounds. So this guy's just being stabbed in the middle of a park, and then they lay him down on a park bench or something to bleed out. Detectives say they'd work closely with the coroner's office to determine official cause of death, probably the stabbing. An email to the coroner's office was not immediately returned. As of Friday, police say that they have no immediate suspects. So, because this guy seems like he's loved by people, this just seems like a random attack of violence. Maybe a mugging or something, but this just seems fairly random, just violent for the sake of violence. Due to the violent nature of the attack, additional officers will be deployed in the downtown area to ensure visible police presence, and also potentially to look for witnesses or people who might be able to find things, right? So you put police down there because people tend to be creatures of habit, and you might be able to find someone who's nearby, heard something, saw something. You never know where leads could go. Saw someone running away, saw someone acting suspiciously. So you do it to try to get some information as part of your investigation. We realize it's difficult and disturbing when crimes neighbor happen, especially in a public space in the heart of the downtown area. Yeah, I mean, he's just in a public space in the open in the middle of the day, and someone stabbed him to death. The individual in question, who is the victim of this, held a weekly gathering in the name of truth. One of those meetings was scheduled for the day he was killed. He's having a public meeting in a public park. Quintessential First Amendment activity. This is about as First Amendment as it gets. This is a public space. He is in the public space holding a gathering, apparently, for people who want to come spend time with him or listen to him talk. Yeah. Secular without dogma was how he described it on his Facebook page. A message emphasizing love and compassion without a teaching or socialization. A simple pointing to alleviate the illusory nature of suffering. So, a little hippie maybe, but if people want to hear his message, it's a public park. He's allowed to have people come hear his message in a public park. He had said on a fundraising site, they've been asked for people to share their concept of compassion and recorded answers in a notebook and then video due to COVID. He self-published a book with 3,000 responses. So, okay, that's an interesting thing to do, right? Let's ask people what they think compassion is. What is compassion? An interesting philosophical question. He asked people what it is and then to share their responses, and then he self-published a book with 3,000 responses on what compassion is. That sounds nice. I do this as a lifelong endeavor to bring awareness to compassion. I've done interviews, been subject to documentaries, and present for street therapists to those who seek guidance. Sounds nice. If you don't like that, you don't have to participate. Could be a lot of things, could be culty, could be a lot of things, but he's entitled to do it. He's not hurting anybody, at least by what's being reported, so why not? Mourners gathered at the park to pay tribute at the Compassion Bench, a project he spearheaded that became the first monument built in honor of compassion. So he apparently was so dedicated to the concept of compassion, he had built a bench in the park, the Compassion Bench, a bench dedicated to the concept of compassion that the park apparently allowed him to build. And that's where he sort of held his meetings, at the Compassion Bench, to bring people attention to the concept of compassion. Wow. His killing, a woman told the paper, shakes to the core of your belief system about what is good. Yeah, a little bit. But I think he'd want to find some good in what he's trying to do and not look at the negative. Yeah, that does seem to be a little bit of his philosophy, so I suppose that's one way of honoring him. City officials, for their part, released a statement saying that he had dedicated his time and energy to selflessness. So even the city has sort of acknowledged his role as a good influence on the community. The mayor said that the death of the individual is utterly and completely devastating. Many of us knew David, the person who died. We talked with him. We shared his vision for a kinder world. We connected on what it means to be human and humane. David was gentle and kind, soft-spoken, thoughtful, brilliant, selfless. He'll be missed. So the mayor of the city came forward with an official statement about this guy. So seemed like he touched a lot of people's lives in the community for the better. Thus, that brings us to the end of the story about David Bro, also known as Compassion Guy, a guy who, for whatever reason, wanted to dedicate his life to the concept of compassion. And every week, apparently, he would have a meeting in the public park to talk about compassion, and he would interview people about what compassion is. And he would write their responses down. He asked people to record videos about what compassion is. He'd write those responses down, and he published a book about it. He was so dedicated to the concept of compassion, he had a bench built in the park for the concept of compassion, and apparently touched a lot of people's lives, including the mayor, who said that his loss will be missed. And this appears to just be a random stabbing that happened for whatever reason, or no reason at all. So a light lost in the community. And that, unfortunately, brings us to the end of discussion of this story.